ASL, or Australian Settlements Limited, is a prime example of what's possible when an organisation commits to transforming manual, paper-heavy processes into scalable digital workflows. They came to us at a time of rapid growth, facing increased operational complexity and a real need to modernise how they onboarded and supported customers. This was a full digital transformation, not just one workflow, but a foundational rethink of how services were delivered internally and externally. ASL plays a critical role in Australia's financial services ecosystem. They help other financial organisations move money securely and efficiently. What's interesting is that while their client-facing services were highly technical and sophisticated, a lot of their internal workflows were still running on PDFs, spreadsheets and emails. Our job was to help them bring their internal service delivery up to the same level of professionalism and automation that their customers were experiencing externally. ASL was experiencing the classic signs of rapid growth without that workflow maturity. They were onboarding clients using spreadsheets, forms, emails, which meant bottlenecks, errors and delays. It wasn't just inefficient, it was impacting the customer experience and putting pressure on internal teams who were constantly firefighting. The challenge was clear. They needed a structured, automated way to manage high volume, high stakes onboarding and service delivery. The goals we set with ASL were threefold. First, replace manual workflows with intuitive, automated processes. Second, scale JSM as a core platform, not just for IT, but for the entire organisation. And third, build something scalable, a foundation that ASL could evolve with as they continue to grow. We weren't just solving a single problem. We were setting them up for the next 5 years. The first thing we tackled was the intake process, where customer data was being collected through PDFs and emails. We replaced that with smart JSM forms, complete with dynamic fields, drop-down logic, and guided input that ensured the right data was collected the first time. This immediately streamlined onboarding, improved customer experience and ensured consistency. No more missing info or follow-up emails. And crucially, the forms initiated automated task flows behind the scenes, setting the stage for the next phase. Once the client details were submitted, we triggered automated task generation based on product selection, risk profile and regulatory requirements. These tasks were assigned in real time to the relevant internal teams, which meant onboarding could be processed in parallel, not in sequence. This allowed ASL to onboard more clients more quickly, with fewer errors and less admin. It also reduced their dependency on any one person holding the process together. The automation did the heavy lifting. One of the unexpected but hugely valuable outcomes was in reporting. With everything now flowing through JSM, we could build dashboards that visualised onboarding timelines, bottlenecks and handoffs. This gave ASL the ability to forecast workloads, allocate resources more effectively and keep leadership informed, something that simply wasn't possible with PDFs and inboxes. It's a great example of how automation doesn't just reduce effort, it actually creates insight. So while automation helped ASL reduce admin and speed up onboarding, one of the more powerful outcomes was actually visibility. By moving everything to JSM, they unlocked a level of reporting and forecasting they'd never had before. Clear data, actionable insights, and real-time confidence in their processes. It's a great reminder that when you build smart automation right, you don't just make things faster, you make them smarter. Number two, let's shift focus to a very different kind of business, Pepperstone, a high-speed global trading platform based in Melbourne. Their environment was the opposite of what we saw at ASL. Where ASL needed to build structured workflows from the ground up, Pepperstone had grown quickly and added too many tools along the way. The result? Workflow inconsistency, duplicated effort, and a lack of central governance across teams. They engaged us to help consolidate, optimise, and bring order to that sprawl, to align their tools, processes and governance without slowing down what already worked. Pepperstone is a performance-driven organisation and they're known globally for their low latency trading infrastructure and exceptional client support. And internally, they expect their systems to operate with the same speed and reliability. But as they scaled globally, internal services didn't always keep up. Teams had adopted their own platforms and tools, often solving similar problems in very different ways. They created silos and slowed down what should have been a straightforward operational process. That's where we stepped in. What we found was tooling fragmentation, all too common. Different teams using different systems for things like contract approvals, change management, and internal requests. These overlapping platforms led to confusion, duplicated effort and lack of unified reporting or controls. It wasn't broken, it just wasn't scalable. And for a business like Pepperstone, that kind of inefficiency can become a liability fast. Pepperstone came to us with a clear strategic goal: optimize internal service delivery across departments by centralizing solutions. Our approach was to maximize the value of the Atlassian stack that they already had, particularly JSM, and expand its reach across more teams. We didn't bring in more tools. We took what was already in place and made it work harder, smarter, and more consistently across the business. One of the clearest wins was contract management. Previously, contracts were reviewed and approved manually, often bouncing around inboxes, tracked inconsistently, with no centralized visibility. We designed a full contract lifecycle inside JSM, from initiation to approval, with smart routing, status tracking, and complete auditability. That gave Pepperstone a faster, more reliable process and significantly reduced legal and compliance risk. Another key area was their website change approval process, complicated by regional regulations and internal content silos. Pepperstone operates in multiple jurisdictions, each with their own compliance requirements, and updating website content required coordination across legal, marketing, and regional stakeholders. We built a dynamic approval workflow in JSM that triggered the right reviewers based on region or department, with audit trails, SLAs, and automation to keep things moving. This drastically reduced delays and manual oversight, ensuring website updates could go live faster without cutting corners on governance. What you've seen with Pepperstone is a perfect example of how Atlassian tools, when structured the right way, can unify fragmented processes, increase visibility, and unlock speed at scale. And we didn't achieve it by introducing new tools. We did it by deepening their use of JSM and applying consistent architecture across departments. It's about doing more with less and doing it elegantly. Now, the next story I want to share with you is a little closer to home and one I'm particularly proud of. KiwiRail is a long-standing client of ours, and their journey represents what happens when you don't just solve a tactical problem, but build a strategic services platform that evolves year after year. From mobile device management to full enterprise service management, they've embraced the full potential of JSM. When we first began working with KiwiRail in 2022, the brief was clear: get off ServiceNow and move to a more agile, cost-effective, and extensible solution. Atlassian was the natural fit, and we deployed Jira Service Management across IT. But this just wasn't a tooling shift. It laid the foundation for a broader vision: strategic enterprise service management. What started as tactical use cases like mobile device provisioning quickly became a platform KiwiRail could scale with, adapt to, and extend into new requirements. The story is as much about evolution and trust as it is about tooling. KiwiRail is one of New Zealand's most critical infrastructure organisations. It moves 25% of the country's exports, enables over 34 million commuter journeys annually, and support the tourism economy with over 1 million passengers a year. Operations across freight, tourism, and passenger rail means their systems must be robust, responsive, and efficient. What's made our partnership so effective is that KiwiRail doesn't approach us with one-off problems. They invest in long-term improvements. They view internal services as something to continually optimise, and IT as a strategic enabler, not just a cost centre. After the migration from ServiceNow, KiwiRail didn't just stop with an IT deployment. They committed to maximising what JSM could do across the business. First, they wanted to extend service management beyond IT, reaching teams like freight and HR. Second, they sought to replace manual workflows, things like running on spreadsheets, PDFs, and siloed emails, with an automated and trackable service process. And third, they focused on driving consistency across departments in how services are delivered, governed, and reported on. This timeline shows how the strategy unfolded year by year. 2022, we had the migration from ServiceNow to JSM. Shortly after, we rolled out a mobile device ordering system and user onboarding. In 2024, we supported KiwiRail's freight division with inventory tooling and HR with a new internal service portal. And in 2025, we came full circle with the IT team, coming back to evolve the mobile device solution into a full BYOD framework. What's important is that each of these initiatives wasn't isolated. They were layered, compounding value and capability across the organisation. This was our first significant delivery after the core JSM deployment. KiwiRail needed a seamless way to manage the entire device lifecycle request, from submission to compliance validation all the way through to supplier fulfillment. We implemented JSM assets for device tracking, integrated Microsoft Intune for compliance, and automated the ordering flow to remove manual bottlenecks. The result, a robust, user-friendly and scalable solution that quickly became a trusted internal capability. The impact was immediate. Automation replaced manual work at every stage, resulting in significant time savings and greater operational clarity. Teams were freed up from administrative tasks, allowing them to focus more on strategic work. We introduced better traceability and auditing through asset tracking, a must-have for compliance and governance. And notably, KiwiRail's supplier was onboarded into the same JSM environment, eliminating the need for email chains or third-party portals. That reduced complexity and enabled better collaboration with fewer touchpoints. This wasn't about building BYOD system from scratch. It was about strategically extending the one that we already had for mobile device management. KiwiRail needed to support flexible work policies while maintaining compliance and governance, especially around sensitive systems and data. The real challenge was how to adapt an existing system without fragmenting workflows or introducing parallel processes that increase support costs and technical complexity. We extended the JSM asset schema already in place for mobile provisioning and just added BYOD specific attributes. All of the existing smarts, compliance checks, automation rules, and even the Microsoft Intune integration were reused. The self-service portal already worked well, so we enhanced it to guide users through BYOD, maintaining that intuitive employee experience. The rollout was quick, clean, and low risk. The foundation was already solid, and we simply built on it. KiwiRail now has complete visibility and control over BYOD devices using the same tooling and reporting pipeline they already trust. The IT team isn't stretched, automation handles the compliance, and employees manage their own devices. A modern, policy-aligned BYOD capability without needing to introduce new software or training overhead. This project showcases the power of platform thinking, how JSM can flex and evolve alongside strategic business challenges. And that really sums it up. It wasn't about doing more with more, it was about doing more with what we already had. It's a strong example of how a thoughtful foundation combined with the right tooling allows you to respond to strategic shifts with speed, confidence, and minimal disruption. So with that, I'll wrap up my segment. I'd love to open up if you've got any questions. We might have limited time. But yeah, thank you for taking the time.